Sproul.
Voila.
You're all set.
Hey everybody, welcome to Up and Welcome. I'm Aaron Fisher. Welcome to Conjuror Community. I'm here today with Alex Slimmer and Steve Barcelona from Conjuror Community Club, the world's best magic club. Now today we're going to be looking at the magic of Guy Hollingworth. So do us a favor real quick before we get going and hit the subscribe and like button. So you'll be notified every time we go live with a new video, no matter who or what it's about. Steve, friend, what's the magic story, Morning Glory?
I don't know, man. We're going to do some a magic astonishment in the afternoon. We're going to dig into, Alex, would you say it's a grip of videos? Is it a grip?
It's a
grip. I love when we say we have a grip. I love that.
That's good. Well, let's have a stiff upper lip. Let's keep calm and carry on. Let's get our playing cards together. Various.
Stretch your fingers out. Get ready.
The elegant experiences of a Guy Hollingworth.
This is way too much class for us.
It's not that classy, really. It's, you know.
We wear t-shirts everywhere we go. We're always wearing t-shirts.
Remind me to tell you later about when I asked Guy Hollingworth for lessons in etiquette.
Oof. Oh, let's just start with that. All right. We'll watch a video first. I can't wait.
2 hours on etiquette in the bar in Cape Cod.
I can't wait.
Well, all right. That's fascinating. All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's get into some Guy Hollingworth. And let's start with one that I think is really a classic. That wasn't the best one.
Sorry. What's the first trick?
Let's get into this thing. Let's let me get some sound here and let's get into this first trick here. Let's have some fun. This is a classic of Guy Hollingworth.
Oh, my favorite.
It's one of the best. One of the best. So let's get into this thing.
I'm going to show you a classic of magic. Twisting the aces, no less. Always an old favorite. Performed today for the sake of variety with 4 jacks, no less. There we go, all 4. Now the idea, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is to make the cards turn over one by one in a magical, almost mysterious manner. I will show you what I mean. You see, the cards all start off facing the same way, and when I square them up very slowly, just like this, and give them a little twist, hence the title, that causes one of them to turn over. How about that? Jack of clubs. I've always thought the problem with this trick, however, is you can't see the exact moment at which the cards turn over. So if I were to leave them spread out just like this, if one of them were to turn over now, of course, you'd see the exact moment when it happened. Something like this. I'll show you that again, just in case I caught you out on what they sometimes refer to as the offbeat. Watch closely as I move from side to side, and you'll see the third one actually turn over in midair. 3 down and just 1 to go. Your last chance to catch me out. I'll do it as slowly as I can. Now then, I don't want you to think, however, it's any easier just because the card is on the end. You might think I was just flipping it round with my thumb or doing something like that. So to make it just as difficult, I'll put it back in the middle. Watch carefully, as with the snap of the fingers, the last one, just like the others, turns over.
Pretty great.
Just
that rare,
so polite.
Where we didn't feel the need to pause at any time during the routine. We just wanted to let it roll.
It's a good trick, man. It's so visual and so it's pretty tough to beat. I mean, it plays up here, plays for an audience. Twisting the aces is usually something that plays like for 2 people, a small crowd around you, right? It's like everyone's looking down on the thing. I think it's one of the great innovations on that trick, and
no doubt,
beautiful, beautiful trick.
No doubt, and it's so beautiful. And you know what, Robert Battle, one of our clever members who's been around a long time, is right. Guy does have big hands and long fingers, but I have to say that for all of our CC Club members watching, if you're not a CC Club member, that you can rectify that, but I'm sorry, I'm not trying to exclude you from this. But CC Club members, we had TV's famous Larry Wilmore here a couple months ago in the back room. Larry taught some stuff that made this trick, except I do not have big hands or long fingers. And I never felt like, I went through Guy's book when I was a kid and I was like, this is not going to happen for me. But when Larry taught it, I was doing the moves within that hour while we were watching Larry do it. Do you guys remember that?
I absolutely do. I think Larry had a lot of great touches on it that made it more accessible for everybody. And Larry's great. I mean, that whole lecture is great. There's so many cool things in it, but that was definitely a highlight when he had his version of this on there.
Mhm.
It's one of the reasons to join CC, right? Just to see that lecture. So good.
William LaFay said looks like invisible deck technology. And of course it does look like rough cards, but those are ordinary. Borrow a deck and do that trick. Ordinary deck and literally as little and extra as you could ever have. It's really pure sleight of hand. It's really, I think you're right, Alex. It is, I think, the most beautiful thing to happen to Twisting the Aces since the Asher twist.
Agreed.
Since the Asher twist. And that's saying something because the Asher twist was the best thing that happened to Twisting the Aces.
Well, what Asher Twist did to it was made it so super visual that anyone could see that thing and know what the effect is, right? And I think what Guy did is he brought it up, right? And when you bring it up, you're just playing to more people, and that's that's good for Magic. If you can show it to more people, it makes it more versatile.
No doubt. I mean, the thing about there's also a slightly different. It really, it's interesting. Guy is using delicate misdirection, right? Here, and he says, watch. And by the time your eyes focus, it's happened. And he's using that misdirection so subtle that you don't feel like you're looking away at all. Your attention is split between two things in front of you, and it's just enough, and it looks like magic. When Lee did the Twisting the Aces, you just look down and it happens, right? And it's got a different kind of cover. So it's like, you're absolutely right in terms of it, one being down low and one being up high and both being hyper visual, but there's a little bit of a different taste that's hard to describe,
Oh no, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to diminish what Lee did, because I think what Lee did with the trick, I think is really one of the great innovations that there is, I mean, we could probably do a show just talking about Lee's trick, because I think it's wonderful. I've spent a lot of time working on it, and I think it's, it tells the story in a way that the other ones can't tell, right? The other ones, you have to use language, right? Even with Guys, you sort of have to use language to set up, this is what's going to happen next. But with Lee's, you can pretty much do David Blaine presentation. Watch this, right? It's so simple, so easy to follow. And then when you see it, your eyes bulge out of your head because it's so impossible. It's great. It's great. It's just, I think that in the lineage, the fact that Guy was able to bring it up like this and have it play like this, it's really, that's to me, that's inspiring. That's an inspiring thing. I wish I could do that with every trick. You know what I mean?
In each cases, right? In each case, guys, for card workers who like stuff to feel and look like real magic, purely visual effects and routines where visual things happen over and over and over again. You don't need many of them, but they're precious. They're gold. Like one or two will get it done. We like a lot of magic that happens in your imagination, in your brain. But every now and again, if the audience can just look upon things just happening, that's kind of irreplaceable, Steve?
It strengthens everything else, right?
Like it's that cherry on top. Would you want Sunday without the cherry? It's more important than it looks.
Right. Even just
Right.
for there it is.
All right.
There it is.
Beat Barcelona, man, a few words, but those words will count.
Yes, they do count. I was just going to say, it's obviously beautiful sleight of hand. It's so clean, and that's the thing about it. It's so clean, and every move is elegant to the point of like efficiency.
So
And that's what I like about it.
The Buddha was frowning before he saw that recording. That's it's doing.
He is certainly.
That's the power of Guy Hollingworth. He even
and he dresses well, and he looks like he's very polite.
I have to say that's a interesting topic for another time. Let's it's
I'm just saying.
I see that close-up magic, and fortunately Guy does magic so beautifully that when you say, man, he sure does dress well, one doesn't have to, if that's all you said, right? That's good.
Yeah, that would be less good. But
right, if you got off of the show.
What do you think of that magic show? Man, that guy
dress is good.
Well.
Their dress is good. You know what I mean? So in this case, all that, and he dresses beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And he dresses beautifully. There's
All right, let's do another trick.
And he wears a waistcoat,
A collection, full collection.
a clutch.
I said to him, Guy, how can I learn? How can I learn to have the etiquette that you have?
Oh.
And he went, yeah, dear me. And then he told me that there's a book, The Royal Road.
The Royal Road.
It's a book called, that's right, Ron Porter. He wrote his book in a suit and tie. The book is called Debrett's Form. So it's the kind of book that when Guy was transported off to some special preparatory school for lords and ladies and such and gentlemen, he was given this book, and it's the primer. It's called Debrett's, and it teaches you everything about how to wear the waistcoat, to where the spoons go, to at what point to lift the spoon, if it's before the chicken but after the aspic, things like that. All the things that one needs to know if one is going to be an old Etonian.
And how far did you get in your etiquette course?
Hollingworth and I sessioned for hours, and I'd say I made him talk about English etiquette for like 5 hours. But he loved it. It was great. It was a beautiful bonding, sensational. Sensational. The three of us, it was Adam, and then later it was Adam, Guy, and I having pints in Cape Cod at the Conclave back when Hank Lee was not incarcerated.
When Hank Lee was still a thing.
Hank Lee, well, Hank Lee, he did his time. He's out now. Let's watch another film.
Let's get into it.
Before we start talking about Hank Lee's jail time.
Let's do this. All right.
Ever made salad dressing in the past will be familiar with the idea that oil and water generally don't mix. Of course, you can mix them briefly by shaking them up, but they naturally then separate out again. What you may not be aware of is the fact that you can simulate this behavior with a pack of cards. Let's imagine that the black cards are somewhat heavier than the red cards.
So, we're asked to believe here that Guy Hollingworth is in a phone booth, right?
Right.
And it's not just because there's a terrorist attacking someone across the street and he has to do a quick changeroo. But second to that, we are having a bit of a style issue here, right? Because in this particular situation, I just want to be clear, Guy has got this beautiful 40s black and white thing, and the trick is oil and water, right? Okay.
Yes.
So maybe if when we start it, if Alex, will you just point out to us, if you would, the red ones?
Sure. The way that he did it was he made the red ones spot cards and the black cards are the court cards. So he made it easy, even because he knew he made this. He knew he made this stylistic choice. And to be clear, all of these places that we'll see Guy performing, this is like a walk through London late at night with Guy. So he has this set up like it's like it's an old time black and white movie, and he's talking about magic on his walk. So that's why all of these different locations come up as we are watching these clips.
So he's left his footman at home. He's left the coach and 4 horses at home.
Mm-hmm.
And he's walking as he would if he were a common fellow.
Correct.
Okay. That's a very gentlemanly thing to do with considering the rabble in magic. Let's do it.
And before this, he got off the phone with someone that he was asking information of, and he said, "Oh, what a pleasant woman," hangs up the phone. "Let me show you this thing," and then he gets into the oil and water.
Just so you know, oil and water, perfect trick for an English gentleman to do, because it's all about 2 types of things, just not mixing. One being the other sort of drifting down into the dustbin, like where some hooligans would knock over that dustbin. Perhaps he's in Shaftesbury tonight.
I wouldn't want to be a dustbin in Shaftesbury tonight.
Dude. I love that.
No one knows what it's like to be a dustbin.
In Shaftesbury with hooligans.
All right.
Friends, this is a lot. Sorry, when Alex and I get together and we have a little whiskey, it's more like that than we would like you to know. And when Steve and I get together and have a little whiskey, it's a red letter event that gets to happen about once a year.
My daughter is texting me saying, "Call me immediately." You know why? She's cooking.
Oh, she wants you to know that it's really happening. She wants it verified.
I think either that or the place is on fire.
Oh no.
No.
One or the other. I'll just say can't now.
Is on fire.
Can't.
All right, let's watch the Oil and Water.
All right, let's get back into this.
Normally texts during Oil and Water anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Oops,
He
nope,
knows
this is
what
the
it's
wrong one
Hey,
here.
while he's working that out, put a 1 in the chat box if you are an Oil and Water lover.
Aficionado.
Just a lover, because aficionado is a heavy wave word. It's almost like Steve and the vegetables. That's good. Okay. Put a 2 if you are an Oil and Water hater. Because they're out there. Lee Asher was always an Oil and Water hater. Hated it. Like one of his least favorite tricks.
This is not working out for me, guys. Hang on a second. I think we might have lost the Oil and Water here.
They didn't mix. You know what happened? The Queens, in their exclusive coterie, decided that they could not mix with the riffraff. Don't see the point. Well, a lot of people don't. Robert's a Mississippi guy. Robert Battle.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Aaron? What do you think about these high concept magic videos like this guy Hollingsworth? Lee Asher made one.
Mm-hmm. Those are the days, actually. I remember. You mean now? Would you tell everyone what you mean by a high concept? I remember, of course, what a high concept. When we talk about the first high concept movie, we're talking about Jaws. We're talking about the movies in the United States that destroyed artistic cinema of the 70s. Star Wars, Jaws. Those were the high concept movies where the idea trumps all. Do you mean like concept magic instructional videos?
Yeah, like I forgot Lee's was like a road trip, wasn't it?
Well, that was Hit the Road with Lee and Paul, and they stay at Aaron's house and piss him off.
And there was another one, right? And so now you have Guy on a walk, right? And as he takes a stroll, he teaches us tricks along the way, as opposed to a standard magic video where it's very dry and someone performs a trick and then explains it and so on. So what do you think about presenting it in this way?
I think some of them, I remember a time when I found some of those to be charming and fun. For me, it was a gimmick and a hook and a fun one and no reason not to do it. And if you had a cool idea, we've got this little insular world where, I did that Magic magazine parody once. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can see on your face a little bit that you're like, I don't know. I think, I think it's nice when people put time and care into how they do stuff. I always get excited when they've got an interesting way of teaching. Like Guy wanting to have a chance to do a movie and be an art film magic. I think it's cool. But when Homer Lewag figured out that he could try and teach everything very clearly just visually, I think that was better, for me. But that's just my style. But, I'm not a main one. Like when I call Alex and ask for magic video, I'm looking for like a 2-second. I'm looking to see something like 5 seconds long. I'm looking to see. I'm always just looking to get it.
It's interesting because they're playing with, what does the audience want with this thing, right? They know that a lot of audience members, they want to learn the magic, right? They're there to learn the magic, but there's plenty of people that are there because they like to learn methods. They like to see magicians do their thing, and having that other underlying story or other sort of thing that's going on in the background along with the magic teaching, I think it entertains those folks that are never going to do any of the magic.
You know what? I think Alex is pretty close to really the issue, if there's an issue. There's some people that get the DVDs and learn everything, learn every trick, and really immerse themselves in it. Yeah. And then some people just enjoy it as a form of entertainment.
It's like watching a movie to them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like learning a trick. They may never do it, but it's like an entertainment. Go ahead.
The most ultimate example of this, where there's a mixture, where it really comes across, and I think it does to some extent with Guy. I think Guy is really trying to put some of his actual performance character into the format of the DVD. And I don't think there's anything, I don't poo-poo that, right? But when we think about those Paul Harris books, I was going through those again last night, and there's an example here of a situation where he really did that to those books. Those books were all shtick and style and bits within the bits within the bits, and you're
laughing as much as you're learning magic when you're reading those books, right?
Yeah, and he really managed to create an effect, a larger effect of himself, which is, I think, hard to split apart from the magic in his case. And I feel like it's very weird and odd and unique in history to see a guy use his magic book as a way of conveying his
personality,
magical character, you know, even more than his performance does.
Yeah, I would say that the performance is almost an extension of the books.
Yeah. So Alex, if we lost a video, let's just do a different one.
I found it. I just had to not lose. I had to find my mind again. It was out there and I grabbed it and we're back.
But with books and videos both, Steve, whenever I feel like I'm looking at more breadcrumbs than meat in my loaf, I get another.
I could see that.
I like a good meatloaf, but you know.
Yeah. And
you better have some good magic too if you're going to do all that sticky stuff.
Yeah, like I remember seeing some book came out, and I was probably with Alex, and I don't want to say the guy's name, but I saw this new book and it was out, and the book was like this thick, and then I opened it up and it had like 8 end papers, and then it had like
I remember that night very distinctly.
Wow.
Like, wow, he sure did choose a large font for this book.
That's what I would do.
You know what I mean?
Big fat font, lots of title pages.
Get you a higher page count.
It's like that gag book, the magic, you know, the wit and wisdom of Spiro T. Agnew, and it's just empty pages. You know? Yeah. All right, what are we going to?
All right, let's get into this thing. Let's do this. So we have. So I just started it over, so we can just get back into oil and water, fresh air.
Okay.
Never made salad dressing.
So remember, the court cards are the black ones.
The idea that oil and water generally don't mix. Of course, you can mix them briefly by shaking them up, but they naturally then separate out again. What you may not be aware of is the fact that you can simulate this behavior with a pack of cards. Let's imagine that the black cards are somewhat heavier than the red cards. Now, you may have noticed that I took out 6 cards, and of those 6 cards, 3 of them are black. They're also court cards, so they're easier to tell apart from the other 3, which are low red spot cards. Now, if I alternate those by putting down, first of all, a black card, and then on top of that, a red one, then another black card, and then another red, then the last of the blacks, and the last of the reds, that would simulate the mixing of oil and water. However, if we leave them for just a moment, they would actually naturally separate out, so that the heavier black cards have now sunk down to the bottom, whilst the lighter red cards are sitting on the top. We'll try that once again, using exactly the same 6 cards. Remember, the same black cards start over here, whilst the red cards are over here. And again, I'm going to start off by putting a black card down first, followed by a red one, then another black, and another red, then the last of the blacks, and the last of the reds. Remember, they really are alternating up until the very last moment. They're still alternating here. And yet, even separated by this distance, watch as the black cards separate out from the red cards.
Did you take that phase back, that last phase back?
Mm-hmm. That was cool.
For fun. Okay.
Actually separate out, so that the heavier black cards have now sunk down to the bottom, whilst the lighter red cards are sitting on the top. We'll try that once again, using exactly the same 6 cards. Remember, the same black cards start over here, whilst the red cards are over here. And again, I'm going to start off by putting a black card down first, followed by a red one, then another black, and another red, then the last of the blacks, and the last of the reds. Remember, they really are alternating up until the very last moment. They're still alternating here. And yet, even separated by this distance, watch as the black cards separate out from the red cards.
So, oddly enough, this is waving the aces, right? It's waving the aces, but he does it with the oil and water, right? He's using that same technology to get that thing to do that.
Right. Instead
really
of going
good.
Face up, going black to red to black.
You got it.
Wonderful thing. So, you know, and the trick always, for those of we know that some of you are curious. Yeah, there's an extra card kicking around, but you know, that's still an ordinary deck, and it's how sleight of hand works often is there's an extra card.
What are you gonna do?
you're going to use your extra card, and then you're going to make it look like you didn't have one, I hope. And he did that so beautifully, you know what I mean? Now, this reminds me a little bit of how Ray Cosby the other day had his concept, and he uses that concept, that raise rise concept, in every different way, which you almost have a responsibility to do when you have a new concept.
When you come up with something like that, you got to ring out every drop, find every way to do that thing. Yeah, totally. Yes. And Guy he only uses it for those two things that I've found. But boy, what a great concept. It seems like a great way to hide a card or to make something show up or disappear. It's really cool. And it plays up.
Is Drawing Room Deceptions currently in print? Because I know we had it in the store when it was in print.
We did have it, but I'm pretty sure that it's gone now. But it's one of the great magic books. If you love magic books, it's a great read. It's elegant. It's beautiful to behold, even if you don't read the thing. Everything about it just drips magic. I love that book. It's one of the cooler magic books that there is.
You'll experience a Victorian card magic in its most. So what's the next video?
Yeah, let's get into this. This one's a little bit more. This is a little bit more going on here, but I'll just leave it at that. Let's just get into this thing and do it here. This is good, but buckle your seatbelts.
Oh, this is a biggin.
This is a biggin.
I'd like to show you a trick using my jacket. Or at least when I say a trick, I really prefer to think of this as a metaphor for the delicate balance which is held between us, humankind as a whole, and the natural environment in which we live. So do bear that in mind during the course of this otherwise somewhat mundane card trick. Now, I've taken out the 4 kings already, as you can see, and also you probably noticed the 4 aces, which I'm going to start off with. And I'm going to put those into 4 different pockets about my personage. Spades, ace of diamonds over here. For the sake of variety, I'm going to put the ace of clubs up into my inside pocket, leaving just the ace of hearts to go down into my trouser pocket over here. The idea, of course, being to make them change places one by one with the 4 cards in my hand, the 4 kings, thus symbolizing the gradual takeover of humankind from the natural environment. A very trendy and politically correct card trick, I think you'd agree. So let's start off then with the first one, which changes just like this into the first of the aces, which, if you remember a second ago, I put into one of my pockets. I'll show you that again with the next one. Watch the king of clubs very carefully as it changes into the ace of clubs, the second one down, leaving just the 2 red ones to go. Let me do the king of diamonds as slowly as I can, with my sleeves rolled up, because no one ever trusts me, as that one changes into the ace of diamonds, leaving last but by no means least, the king of hearts. That one too, changing instantaneously into the ace of hearts. And there we have, of course, the total demise of the natural environment on account of humankind, leaving us with the inescapable conclusion that if the 4 aces that were in my 4 different pockets are now in my hand, the 4 kings that were in my hand must now be in these 4 separate pockets. Starting off firstly with the king of clubs over here, the second, the king of diamonds, in my trouser pocket, the king of spades, and last but by no means least, in my inside pocket, the king of hearts.
You know,
come on.
I can't do this trick, you know. And the main reason why I can't do this trick is I don't have any trousers. I only have pants.
And what about your waistcoat?
And that goes without saying. I don't have a waist, so.
The question is, how does Guy pull it off when he's in court in his wig? It's a beautiful trick. That was a beautiful trick.
Yes,
beautiful fantastic. And
it's high level as it gets.
and of course, he's got long fingers and big hands. It involves an epic amount of palming. A trick like that involves at least a 1 palm for every effect, maybe 2.
That's right.
Every switch, every card he's shuttling those cards. Every time one disappears, he's got to shuttle it to where it's going to be pulled out of. So it's a
straight line to the method every single time, right? It's just do it every time. That's the method.
Yeah, the method
just doing it.
Yeah. So basically, they all. Let me try and answer your question real quick, Andre. Basically, all of these tricks, the interchange plot is one of the complex things that were derived from a Vernon trick called the Travelers. And the idea was 4 aces were signed and they were pulled one at a time cleanly out of 4 different pockets. The idea was, of course, that you had 4 different pockets and therefore you needed 4 different palms and you had to have tight misdirection to do it, but it was a very clean idea. One of the big ideas out of that was the idea of the ambidextrous Travelers, which is where you use a one ahead type principle to have those signed cards come out one at a time. And then more or less, as soon as you're done making them go the first time, you snap your fingers, you put the deck down with both hands empty, you remove them on a repeat where there's absolutely less sense that anything could be happening, even less, and it's just a bind number. This is the interchange idea, which I don't know. I feel like it's Vernon again. I feel like
I think it's Sadowitz.
Really?
He gives credit to Sadowitz for the exchange.
Sadowitz's interchange or for the whole concept? Because I feel like this is an even further out notion. And Jack Carpenter, for example, and I think Darwin Ortiz have some reasonably easy versions. But this is an idea where you have 4 in your hand, you place 4 other ones in your pockets, and then you do it as a 4 times transposition. So
it's happening in real time as opposed to a magical moment.
It's definitely a bit of a masterwork. It's definitely a bit, it's not really designed. It's not that some people won't learn it, but it's not really designed for other people to learn. It's designed as a signature type piece for a sleight of hand expert who can do it. And we enjoy it. We learn from it. We see how he's doing it. We take clever ideas from it and apply it to our own thing. Some people may choose to do it, but not many people. Realistically speaking, like if you're interested in Travelers, there's a lot of Travelers, including, John Gustafaro did some great Traveler type stuff in a lecture for us recently, and in the back room. Have we had any other Travelers recently, Alex?
Kind of the Glenn thing is kind of, isn't it?
Well, that's a card to pocket, but I think that's a great thing to look at, for sure.
Kind of in that same vein.
I think Glenn's routine is a great thing to start with, and Glenn did 2 events. I would go ahead and just watch the second one, the one he did on the workshop.
It was a master class on just that trick, on the cards to pocket trick, right?
Great palms and things like that. You'll also, if you look up palms under my name in the club, you're going to see a lot of good training on some very easy palms to get started with, and I recommend them. You spell Sadowitz, Sadowitz. Jerry Sadowitz, all the Scottish guys, virtually all the Scottish guys in Magic are descended from John Ramsey. If it comes to coins and cards, it comes down to Roy Walton. They're all Roy Walton students. I think even Gordon Bruce is a Roy Walton student. So Sadowitz, Duffy, Paul Wilson, all of them owe homage to Roy Walton, who's sort of the Di Vernon of Scotland. Hope that answers your question. Sadowitz has an awful lot of stuff in print, including a long magazine, which is probably hard to get, called The Crimp. Beware if you read The Crimp. That's another example, Steve, of a very stylized Magic situation that's meant to have a lot of laughs and in-jokes in it. I believe if you go and find The Crimp, I met Jerry Sadowitz once and I showed him some Magic and he was like, "Can I publish it?" And I was like, I can't let you publish it. And I showed him another trick and he was like, "Can I publish it?" And I was like, "No, I can't let you. No, I can't."
And he was like, "I don't want to talk to you anymore."
I don't want to publish it. And then when my book, The Paper Engine, came out, he, in The Crimp, I mean, he was a professional comedian and a really funny one, a really intensely obscene and funny comedian. And he's known to not be well in his brain hole. And if you want to have a good laugh at my expense, find the Crimp review of The Paper Engine, and then be sure not to quote it to me because it, as I recall, it's pretty nasty. And I would think probably pretty funny if it wasn't,
If it's not you.
If it was somebody else.
Highlighted, like it'd be hilarious if it was like a review of y'all's book, So that's who Jerry Sadowitz is. Now, if you take a look at Peter Duffy, who did some books with Jerry Sadowitz and a lot of books without him, Peter Duffy's got a wide range of Magic, some really quite difficult, but a lot of it really not. A lot of it really designed to have a lot of subtlety. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you found a lot of methods for this kind of trick that really don't make you work as hard. As I recall, Jack Carpenter has an interchange, Technicolor interchange trick, which is also not ludicrously difficult. In fact, by and large, Jack Carpenter's magic is really, really smart. And
I love Jack Carpenter's magic because it's just beautiful construction, right? So you don't have to work as hard. You do a move at some point to get a few steps ahead, and it's really good. All of Jack's stuff is really good.
You know, guys, it's really interesting. Like, it can take a long time in magic to even have the first idea of the difference between card to pocket routine or card to the sleeve routine or the travelers, right? I mean, they're all, the subtleties are pretty small. And as it happens, the audience doesn't really know the difference. So just consider, in one trick, you've got 4 signed aces. You sign them. They go back in, and aces here, and aces here, and aces here, and aces here. Okay. Now, in Glenn's trick, you got 6 cards signed by the people, 6 selections signed. They start here, and one at a time, they start going to your pocket, and you show one's gone every time. So the question you got to ask yourself is that something that my audience, you have to decide for your own sake how much your audience will care about what those differences are when you realize that some of these tricks are infinitely more achievable. Some of these tricks, you can do like a basic palm once or twice, and you can do the whole trick because of the other ways that other stuff gets done. Some of these tricks, you got to palm twice to do each phase.
Mm-hmm.
A different way. And I don't know what, I think we all have to agree that our audience doesn't care at all what we do on that front. Our audience.
No, as far as the audience is concerned, they're probably going to just describe it as, I don't know what he did, but the cards were in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I signed it and there it was in his pocket.
But so much is that the audience's point of view, that a lot of the decisions you have to make as a magician are about what you think is magical, what makes you feel magical and wizardly. Yes.
I think you sometimes have to really stand on that objective side, just be objective about what you do and realize that you may love it, but it may not be the right thing to do. You may love it. It may be a piece you like to work on and you may have even perfected it, but is it really the right thing to do? Wouldn't it be better maybe to take let's just say a smoother road? Because I think they're all take a reasonable amount of skill so that you can focus more on the audience, and actually making it into an entertainment.
I would say that you're right. And that is often an issue. And often it's the other way around. I think you got to just look, knowing if people hate your magic is just, there's no way around the fact that you have to be honest with how the thing is going. You have to say like, you know what? I really like that trick.
But they hate it.
But they're on to me every time and I don't seem to be able to get it. How you tell a joke once and you think, well, I don't even know if I told it right. So you got to do that joke several times before you go, no, it's not the joke. This joke is bad. I have to pull this joke. And I think with a lot of cases with sleight of hand, a certain method, they might catch on to something once or twice, but if it's as good as you can get it and they're always smelling a rat, like my magic show used to always end in high school. I would get into the ambitious card and it was always a question of whether they were going to say, do you have 2 cards, like on the 3rd phase or on the 2nd phase or on the 4th phase? And so what I would do is I would use my double lift method until, I would see them get suspicious and then I would do it again and they would stay suspicious. They would say something. And when they said something, I would be like, and the show was over because I had no other method, And so it was really important to go to college because I burned every kid in high school. So
you need a new audience
walking around, like learning all this stuff, but I couldn't get beyond that.
Hey, you know what they say? That was very wise of you. They say an amateur changes the tricks, but a professional changes the audience. So you just went to college. I mean, that was brilliant.
And it was really, you only get that reboot a few times in life. Some usually skip the do you have 2 cards and go straight to the grabbing. I think a lot of that stuff has to do with
Your vibe.
the kinds of things that you only acquire in when you shift the audience or the space or your mindset. It happens in life. Sometimes it's like you take a break, you come back, you go, you know what? It's different now. Let me handle things differently. And you show up and you find out, people aren't grabbing as much anymore. If they suspect, they don't suspect as boldly. They don't go, ha ha, j'accuse. You know, they start to treat you. We were talking to someone the other night, right? Someone very close to us here at the Conjuror Community Club this Thanksgiving did their very first magic act.
Mm-hmm.
And that person's family acted like every family member we've ever seen treats a person, right? They were brutal and tough to them. They called them out. They did all these kinds of things they just don't do if they perceive that you're comfortable and confident, you know? So Alex, should we wind this up and continue next time?
Yeah, we should wind it up and continue next time. I'm just going to do one more that sort of continues on with where we were to just wrap it up, but it's one that's going to really make all of us really happy. So let me do that. Let me get this last one here. This is really good. It takes it a little bit of a step further than what we just saw. And it seems like more of a good, this seems like a more practical routine, a more
I feel a 4 ace trick coming on.
more doable that would actually
And
mean
here
it
they
should
are,
go.
the 4 aces, which I'm going to put back into different locations in the deck. And in fact, I shall lose them further with a couple of cuts and shuffles. However, I suspect that even after this shuffling, if I were now to try and find those cards again, you would not be particularly impressed. So to make it even more difficult, I'm going to put them into my pocket so that I can't see them either. Much more tricky. Now, of course, if I were to reach into my pocket with empty hands and pull out one of the aces, that would be far more impressive. However, it would still not be a phenomenal trick. So I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not. What I'm going to do is try and make the aces appear from the other side of the jacket, thus making them actually penetrate through the very fabric itself. So first having to locate the ace in the pack, and then pulling it right the way through the jacket, something like this, the ace of clubs. We'll try that again, just over here. The second, the ace of hearts. One more time.
It's like the Phoenix Ace.
Yeah.
Just down at the bottom, the ace of diamonds, leaving just the last one. By the way, the last one really is the most difficult. I have no idea exactly where it is, but I'll do my best. In fact, why don't I actually pull the entire pack through the pocket, leaving just one card inside? That card being, of course, the final ace, the ace of spades.
Great, right? Just so great.
That's a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. And it looked so good, and he's using his coat. Steve, go ahead. Unmute yourself, though.
I was just going to say it was absolutely beautiful. It's just like just a nice little, perfect little routine. And you're just like, here's my routine, and now I must be going. And that's it.
It's really just a wonderful piece of magic because in the middle of it, it's like, you know, it flips on its head and it goes the other direction. And it's really good, man. There's so many good magical moments that are unexpected in that thing. So cool. And the Phoenix Aces, like Aaron said, it's the Phoenix Aces, right? I love that trick. And it's like a practical way to do the Phoenix Aces that I think actually contributes to the Phoenix Aces with that coat being there and going in through the coat. Really cool, man. Really
yeah,
cool.
no, I think the Phoenix Aces, you know, it's a little shady, those cards being produced from anywhere and pulling them from the cloth. I think Cards Through Handkerchief is an eminently believable and beautiful thing. And so what a great way to end. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Do us a favor, hit the like button, which tells everyone we're doing a good job with these videos. While you're at it, subscribe to Conjuror Community right now so you'll be notified when we go live with new magic videos. By the way, if you have never tried out a real magic club, you should check out our club, Conjuror Community Club. We have the most fun anywhere in magic, online or off. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next one.